Welcome everybody tonight to the 9th annual Andover High School Poetry Hoop. Would like to welcome the teachers and students of Andover High, along with the Frost Board and everyone that's here tonight. My name is Jessica. I'm the Executive Director of the Robert Frost Foundation. And tonight we have not only the announcements, but the amazing and inspiring students who will share what's on their mind. And then we will have an open mic, and everyone here is welcome to share what's on their mind. With that being said, I'd like to welcome Jim, who's our president, and he will give all the current announcements for the local ongoings within the community. Thank you.
So we usually start off with, try to have something by Frost, and we usually like to think about the weather. Now that's been quite the weather. And then I like to do something fun lately. So I'm trying to do all those things and to try to show that Robert Frost has got rhythm. So I'll take a bit. So this is basically, I don't know if you're familiar with the mashups they do on YouTube. They combine things that don't really go together, and they go together. So I'm getting suited up to lead my horse through the snowy woods. So there we go. Lost its way. So this is stopping by the woods on a snowy evening and staying alive. So it doesn't really fit until you slow the Bee Gees down to 72%. So brace yourself. And it'll be done lumberjack style for accent. Okay, nice and slow. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. I'm just a horsey, why are we stopping? Somebody help me, yeah. Well, he gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. Ah, the woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. So Bobby's got rhythm. I guess that was the point. Anyway, I wanted one of those hats with the flaps that goes over your ears. They used to call them a weehawker up in Maine, but I couldn't find one, so balaclava is the best I can do. Anyway, so we have announcements of what's left in this busy March. We have Fuerza tomorrow night at 6 p.m. in the Lawrence Public Library. It's a great place where MC Llaneris, or I call her MC Generous, tells you to speak your truth at the open mic. And then March 23rd at 7 p.m., that's like a Thursday, the Haverhill River Bards are back in action at Battlegrounds Coffee. That's like right on the main drag there, Washington Street. Feature Jesse Brown. And Merrimack Mike, fourth Sunday. It's kind of an unusual time, but it's a huge, wonderful place where we're going to have a festival in May 12th. So it's March 25th at 10:30 a.m. Sunday. So get your coffee on at the Merrimack Public Library in their big space. And then Tuesday for Poetry with Ken and Nadine. That's at the North Andover Public Library on March 27th at 7 p.m. People usually come a little early to sign up, with a host performance and open mic. And then the next hoot we have next month is Tim Kremen and Helena Minton. They're a couple of locals here. We all know them. We love them. Can't live without them. And they're coming out with 2 books. And then there will be the Poetry in North Andover with and we'll be there with Ken and Nadine at a show April 8th. And they'll have their tap dancers. If anybody went to the Frost Festival at the library, they're amazing. Tap poets, yeah. They're amazing. They nearly brought the house down, literally, even though it was a cement library, so they're pretty amazing. So that'll be there April 8th from 2 to 3, looks like 2 to 3:30 p.m. in North Andover Town Library. Is that about, oh no, and in Andover, for those from Andover and nearby, Thursday, March 22nd, 6:30 to 7:30, Linda Flaherty Haltmeyer, Andover's Poet Laureate, just arrived, will be leading a poetry workshop there. That's March 22nd. And of course, on May 12th will be the big All Literation Nation Festival. And now we go to the big yearly feature, the AHS show with Harry Durso.
Yep. Tomorrow is National Poetry Day.
Tomorrow's National Poet. Yeah, I think that was Linda's activity was in honor of that.
Tomorrow.
There's a whole month too. Is it April? Oh. All right. Don't make me call security. It's over to Harry.
Thank you, gentlemen. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. It's very important for us as a country to listen to each other. And I spend a lot of time at home now, and I watch the news all day, and it's not good. And I think the only way we're going to get through this is if we have nights like this and we listen. So I have a few remarks. I have pens and pencils and calendars for everyone here tonight from our sponsor, Don Michaud. Don. As Jessica mentioned, this is our 9th annual Andover High School Poetry Night. 9 years that we've done this. Started with Mark Shore and Don Michaud and myself 9 years ago. And every year, we've been able to come together with great teachers like Eric Pellerin here, who bring the students over. What a wonderful thing, to offer these wonderful students a forum where they can speak freely. They're not graded, they're not looked at, they're not reviewed. They come and do whatever they want. It's the freedom of speech that's here at Cafe Azteca tonight, thanks to all these wonderful people. So we want to thank Don Michaud for sponsoring us tonight, Don's Auto Care in Lawrence. Don has sponsored us for 9 years in a row. He's getting a little tired of it, but he's sponsored us for 9 years in a row, okay? Joe Spanos Productions, his lovely wife Bethany. Bethany edits the show for television. It's on in Lawrence, Methuen, and Andover. And this last year, our 8th Poetry Night has received very, very good response from the community. I'm very famous at the meat counter at Market Basket now. I take my reviews there. But a lot of people have come to me and said that they've watched the whole thing, which is a testimony to the students in Andover High and Eric's teaching to be able to express themselves in a night like this. I also would like to thank Mark Shore. We miss Mark terribly. But the only way we can honor him is by doing what we're doing tonight. I want to thank him. Let's have a round of applause for Mark Shaw. It's amazing how much power he has with us tonight, that he instills this in us every year to do this. What a great honor it was to meet him. I met him at Dawn's Garage, and it was a wonderful meeting of minds, and I'm just so grateful that he brought me into this world. I want to introduce one of Dawn's customers here, Marshall Reba. Marshall, will you raise your hand? Marshall Reba is special guest. Marshall designed the trajectory for the Apollo moonshot, one of the most historical events of the 20th century. And he comes to the garage because that's the class that we have, is that the historical figures will come to us to get their cars fixed. Let's hear it for Marshall. Marshall sat down for an hour and explained to me how the trajectory is similar to getting a basketball into the hoop, except you get the capsule onto the moon. I lost him about halfway there, right, Marshall? But still, I was with him. He was astrophysicist at MIT. How about that? Welcoming us and his lovely wife, Bev, tonight. Thank you, Marshall, for being a good supporter of us. What a great honor it is to be here tonight. I want to thank Jessica Sanchez. Jessica, raise your hand. Executive Director of the Robert Frost Foundation. The entire Robert Frost Foundation has been just unbelievable in their support for the arts in Lawrence. I hope they grow and expand and do wonderful things. I tell the mayor all the time, this is what you should be showing up to, is show up to these events. And with all the recent news of Lawrence in the news, even by the president, they should be here listening to us tonight. Okay, all right. All right, the whole point of creating this was to give a free speech forum to the Andover High kids. And I think with all the shootings that have happened, with the Parkland shooting, the shooting today in Maryland, I think the new voice of America is going to be the high school kids. I think they really and truly took charge this time and commanded attention. I think that you're going to see great change in our culture because of the high school kids. And isn't it amazing that they took charge of the situation instead of letting it go? So I look forward to hearing the students here tonight, and I look forward to the changes they're going to make in our society. So we have to hope that there's change in our society for the better now. Okay, all right? I usually start out with a couple of my own poems, and I'm just going to try to keep them brief tonight. The first one is a poem I wrote for Mark. I miss him terribly. The poet Mark Shaw passed away, but is it silly to say that his poem survived with an even stronger will to live? Syllables ring more true. The embedded ideas boom out like trumpets. His love for words embraced the soul of those who simply stop and listen. It is a shame that poems are immortal, but poets are not. It only seems fair that they too shall also shine in the sun. But it is up to those who remain to read his poems out loud so we can continue to rejoice in his ability to send us pieces of his soul from so very far away. And the second poem is part of a group of poems I call picture poems. And I'm in medical care a lot, and I happen to leave the hospital at night, Holy Family, late at night. Sometimes it's dark and it's snowy, and some of the patients are there waiting for their rides from vans. And they're in the dark, and they just sit there in the dark. And I met this woman one night, and she just captivated me. So I wrote this about her. It's called Stopping Rain. She sits in a wheelchair, staring out at the ice and snow while wearing a bright red coat, waiting for the van to come. Driven by a stranger who could care less about anything but reefer and sex. She doesn't look back at the others sitting in the dark, knowing that many won't make it till spring. She fixes her makeup to fool death for a while, feeling so strange on parade like this. She was so good in her life, prayed so hard, knowing now that if she could stop the rain, she'd be better. No one knows about her tomorrows. She smiles when she thinks a good memory just might make her live through this wait from hell as she shivers when the door opens and the snow comes in. From now on, she promises herself that she will measure life in spoonfuls as she thinks of microwaving a pizza for supper and wondering why such a place like this exists, where hope still shines, but still so hard to see, as her chemo makes her want to sleep forever. Thank you so much, and we're going to start with the students, and I'm going to start tonight with Charlotte Gutterman, a senior, who's been here 4 years. Thank you, Charlotte. Where?
Oh, never mind.
All right, it's okay. That's okay, we're all good.
Perfect. All right. Can everyone hear me? Am I appropriate distance? Wonderful. All right, so I'm Charlotte. I'm a senior at Andover High School. And I will start with the dinosaur's prayer. For Valentine's, I bought small plastic dinosaurs. They clamored in their clear plastic bucket, 20 apiece in the bargain bin, a tangle of ancient ribs and footprints long extinct. The best was Triceratops, with his ribbed crown and stubborn jaw. I affixed him to a heart-shaped rock, thought of loneliness and reptiles, and imagined my driveway in a time before meteors. Later, I learned to classify soil layers and trace linear tiers down theoretical mountains. So it is February. The snow melted weeks ago, and still no one has invented time travel. Before I am fossilized in some underground horizon, I ask the sky one favor. I say, I am in love with this idea of forever, but understand only so much can fit under a clear plastic atmosphere for so long. So please, O Lord of creaky limbs and practiced infinity, know I will be satisfied with just a little bit more time. And if it's good, I've got another one. Sweet.
Go ahead.
All right, can I move this forward a little bit?
Sure.
Thank you. All right. Why my mother thinks Hebrew is sexy. Because she was 16. Because she gathered eggs on the kibbutz. Because all the men wore white t-shirts. And because their hair was short the way she likes it. Because she could not speak it. Because she learned to speak it, yet never taught it to her daughters. Because it was 1978 and they were winning. Because they are still warring. Because she married a man whose father was a pacifist. Because her father was alive. Because she is American and therefore only knows she is beautiful in other countries. Because she keeps meaning to go back and her daughters have never been. Because she could not eat chicken for months. Because of the flavor of death. Because all the boys had machine guns, and her daughters are almost 16. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. Very good. Okay. We'll have Abigail Daggett, who is a senior at Andover High. And this is your second year performing. Abigail?
Hi guys, how we doing? Good. So my first poem is called Harsh Edges on a Soft Face. I'm told my eyes are my best feature, simple at first glance, but swimming with flicks of iridescence, gently splashed across my immense glassy windows. I would change the framing around them, thicker ebony curtains with a heavy, voluminous curl. My soft, rosy complexion, dotted with beige and salmon-colored freckles, is stunningly similar to what it was at age 5. The face remains alike, but the bags under my eyes and the lines around my mouth are a new addition from the art of growing up quickly to face the adult world. My eyebrows are strong, presented in a neat, groomed state at all times, to escape my less than intimidating appearance. They are the courage of my face, darkened to dramatize their intensity. My hair is normally tucked behind my left ear, an act of delicacy and a poor decision to get side bangs. The dirty blonde and brown roots peek through my hairline and behind my neck. Although artificial, the golden and white hues pay homage to the hair color I once had, tumbling wave by wave across my shoulders. My next poem is called A Night to Forget. The evening is slow, and the lights from the TV are dying, like most things, or at least their iridescent light is starting rapidly in its lively glow. I am young, but I do not recall how old I am as I shapeshift into the adults and surrounding limpid windows. My mouth is bitter with tension, and tomorrow my breakfast will taste like nothing. In fact, the next morning doesn't exist. The actuality of everyone waking up and carrying on is curious to those who stay sleeping. I'm still as I sit with her, reflecting on my grandpa's cryptic expression and how I'm craving for and fearing her resurrection movements. But now it's 2 a.m., and my wet cheeks haven't seen any grief. I find myself curled up in a twin bed with my frozen mother, straining to remember her warm peace of mind. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Gio Coppola, freshman. Welcome, Gio.
Hello. I only have one, but yeah. It's called My Jacket. I wrote it like a while ago about a jacket that doesn't fit me anymore, so yeah. Lost in my own reflection, I somehow feel the flaws that only I can see. My jacket is my protection against the weapons that are my perception of myself. When it is on, I can take on the world. I finally see myself how I want to be seen. Just for a few moments, I can be who I am. I feel tough for once, like I can get into a fist fight and win. For the moment, I live in that fantasy, but quickly realize I am small and insecure. My jacket comes off. The shell protecting my fragile inside. Weakness, all I feel now is weakness. And I feel like I should curl up into a ball and never come out. The jacket is left on a chair for days on end. If I wear it, I look like I'm trying too hard, but I remember how it felt to shamelessly wear that acid-washed denim jacket. The emotional high, the false sense of power. Every so often, when I pass that jacket on the chair and I long for the day, I will put it on again. Thanks.
Thank you, Gio. Okay. We have a great student from Andover High School who graduated a few years ago, which I won't mention the year, but her name is Kate Hernandez, and she's going to come up and read one of Mark Shaw's poems. Is that correct? All right. A great student, by the way. A great student.
Hi, everyone. As I saw everyone else coming up and saying they're senior, so we'll get in a time machine. I'm a senior, 1994. When I came in here, I asked me to read one of these, and I was reading through this, and imagine it takes place. This is placed in an airport, and I was remembering my own most recent business trip, and sitting in Reagan National Airport waiting for my flight, and it's just so great to be here tonight with the Andover High School students because I was there. I know your school. I know the halls. I know the rooms. And to see that and to look at where I am now, 10 years later. Yeah, and thinking that my life now is Reagan National Airport. Airports themselves remind us more than ever of the scarcer resources that we all must share, and of the new chains we have begun to wear. Burger King burgers lie under the same heat lamp as Pizza Hut pizzas, and the CNN multiplexes, the airport PA system with 1,000 sound bites that ride free with announcements for which we listen. And the American Eagle has landed. Meanwhile, I see the strains on the faces there, whose circuits feel overloaded before their trips actually start. Perhaps wishing for simpler plans with fewer channels, or perhaps no channels at all, or perhaps a cooling off period would be best for the lowered voltages of these bodies at rest.
That was one of Mark Shore's poems. We all miss Mark, and I just feel his presence here tonight. I'm going to have Eric Pellerin come up. Eric's the teacher that puts all this together at Andover High. Eric, come on up. A big round of applause for Eric.
Hello. So, I've been finding it difficult to fit poetry in my life. So I've been trying to figure out how to get it back in, and one of the things I was doing is I opened a folder, I called it Mixtape, and just started taking song titles, like put a song title and just start writing something. This one oddly comes from a Van Halen song. What was kind of interesting about this, there's certain songs, certain bands you only listen to like in certain moments, and like Van Halen is definitely a summer thing for me. I don't listen to Van Halen any other time but the summer. It's just like the coming of summer when I can open the windows and drive, then Van Halen comes on. This poem has absolutely nothing to do with Van Halen, really. But it started, and it was interesting, because I think the poem really takes place in the winter. So maybe that's what it is. I'm waiting for it. This is called Why Can't This Be Love? What does it mean to be a vegan in a Van Halen shirt? It means she better eat before the show, because murder is all around. And though she doesn't look the part, and Diamond Dave certainly loves a bit of bacon, she is a spectator in this porterhouse, surrounded by accomplices. Passing hors d'oeuvres on small plates and rubbing elbows with people she doesn't know, mentioning the Fulbright program because that's the kind of crowd this is, which makes her sit in an empty room in a refurnished basement watching It's a Wonderful Life on Channel 5 with the commercials, asking herself, when did I get here? When will leaving not appear rude? And knowing she will be the last to leave. She would mingle with friends if they were here, but she does not know anyone but her parents and her son, who runs around with other kids squealing in fits of laughter. While she holds up the wall, having reemerged from below now that George Bailey is reborn, she nurses a club soda with a lime because it looks like vodka. She makes frequent trips to the bathroom, staring at her reflection in the mirror, reading the label on cologne bottles and toothpaste ingredients, noticing the pattern of flowers on the wallpaper, that they do not match up with the seam near the sink. Now wondering, how long can she stay in here before she's missed? Drying her hands on the soaking wet guest towel. She does not speak the language of meet and greet, and she must explain it all night long. No, I do not miss meat. Yes, I do care about the animals, and I bet it hurts even if it's quick. No, free range is a myth, and no, I didn't see that documentary. Yes, it must be different on the farm you go to. But that doesn't, well, yes, well, maybe killing isn't natural. No, you're right. Okay, no, yes, you're right, yep. Please excuse me, I need to go to the bathroom. She is the last to leave, and they go home to await Santa. And her parents sleep over. It is a tradition her son relishes since Henry left. They open presents the next morning. They follow their grandson around with a bag to collect wrapping paper, keeping the home at least spotless. They share gossip and let their daughter know what all the relatives really think of her, what they think of her. No, I don't care what Rachel said. No, I never said that to Aunt Gladys. Well, she always hated me. I was 6. How was I supposed to be responsible for that? No, that is not why he left. No, I am not going to eat turkey just for the day's sake. Well, you can eat it. Well, no, I'm not judging you. Well, who asked you to make it for me? There are plenty of other things I can eat. I get it from nuts and lentils and tofu and all the other... I am not shouting. Why are you crying? How is this my fault? Well, you know I'm... Yes, honey, Santa was good to you. And no, we're not fighting. No. Where are you going now? You're leaving. Dad, you don't have to go just because she said so. What? Fine. Where? Did you hear what your grandson just said? They don't leave. They sleep over, actually, one more night, and the next morning they go to L.L. Bean and Lord & Taylor and Macy's and Bed Bath & Beyond and Whole Foods and Michelson's and Whole Foods again and the mall and another mall, and finally they go home. She puts her son to sleep, and she gets to breathe. She is introverted and suffers from depression. No one knew or ever understood it. He didn't. She tried to explain it, that she needs time to herself, that she gets overwhelmed. Don't take it personally. My nourishment is different. They went to therapy, and when pressed by the therapist with kind eyes, she explained that she often thinks about killing herself, that it makes her feel calm. And no, she does not think she would actually do it, and no, she has never actually tried it before, and no, she did not mean to hide it. Thinking about it is normal for her. And no, it has nothing to do with you. And yes, she understands. And no, it is just that she gets overwhelmed by it all, by work, by deadlines, and email, and meetings, and internet, and social media, and politics, and driving here and there and everywhere, and calendars, and waking with stomachs in knots, and Celexa, and Klonopin, and Wellbutrin, and Xanax, and lists, to-dos, but mostly people, other people, and their feelings, and their opinions, with no end. End is such a calming word. To be finished, to be done, a clean plate that's rinsed and dried and placed in a cupboard. In this life we search for control, and she decided to control what she consumes, and who she consumes, and who she allows to live, to spare those who cannot fend for themselves, to imagine that it could all be over, and stand up and say that I don't mean to be rude, but I'd like to leave now. Thank you.
Great job, Mr. Pellerin. How's everybody doing? Everybody good? I'm gonna have a great friend of mine, Leslie Ganley from Andover High School, a teacher there, who teaches a whole bunch of stuff, special needs and English, and she was one of my best friends back at the school, and I'm just so happy to have her here tonight. Leslie, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Harry.
Thank you.
Good evening. Is that an okay volume? I've had the great privilege at Andover High School to teach with dedicated, loving, skilled teachers like Harry Durso and Eric Pellerin and Joe Spanos and many others, and I feel very blessed with all of that. Blessed even more so with all the students that we have, because they are inspiring and intelligent and caring. And as Harry said earlier, in this time of these last few weeks and months and year, it is especially moving to see the strength and intelligence of our students. So I'm not a writer of poetry, but I'm going to read a poem written by a 13-year-old about the importance of standing up. And the title of the poem is United. Do we stay silent or raise our voices? Do we give in or make our choices? This is our chance. This is our threat. This is our choice, and we're not finished yet. We stand together and await the light. This is our chance. This is our fight. Here we're standing, united and strong. We're not giving this up. We're not moving on. This is our voice. This is what we came to show. This is our voice, and we're not letting go. This is our word. You give what you get. This is our world, and we're not finished yet. Standing together, holding hands, we all came from the same place. Joined we are forever. We are running the same race. Speak up for what matters, because now it does. This love is caving. Speak up before we shatter. Think of all the dreams we're saving. This is our voice. This is what we came to show. This is our choice, and we're not letting go. This is the world we live in. You must give what you get. This is our word we're giving. We're not finished yet. We stand together, united. This is our chance to repay this debt. We stand beside you all, united. We are not finished yet. Thank you.
I think we're realizing that every generation has its time. And when I was in college during the 60s, it was, the anti-war movement, and the colleges were at the forefront of that. But now it's changed, and you see it moving to the high schools. And not just tonight, we see the students here, so beautiful, but also the teachers. Let's have a hand for both of them tonight. The preservation of our culture is in our schools, and our schools are being treated like war camps now. And we have to preserve this always, this form of communication. This is just very, very enjoyable tonight to me. I hope everybody's enjoying it. Thank you, Leslie and Eric and all the students tonight. We're going to have some people from the Don's Auto Care tonight, and one of them is going to be Dan Rice. Dan's going to come up and do a poem. Let's hear it for Dan Rice.
This poem is written by a mother that lost her son to drug addiction. My brother, who's 29, he's been battling heroin and carfentanil, and I almost lost him 5 times this year. I'm EMT certified. I revived him 4 out of the 5 times. A life's that's wasted, a breath has gone. He knows he's been fighting this addiction too long. He says he's sorry. He says he'll try. He thinks of a prayer and looks up to the sky. It hurts so much. He just can't stop. He shoots the drugs until he stops. He actually drops his hopes. He drops his spirit. His soul cries out. You just can't hear it. A life that's wasted. A breath that's gone. The result of this. He just couldn't move on. He slowly lets go. He slowly is dying. He takes his last breath and he quickly starts crying. So life is gone now, wasted away. The day his life ends, today may be the day.
Thank you, Daniel, for sharing your feelings with us. We've been fortunate at Don's Auto Care that we have many poets. One of them, Frank Farnham, couldn't be here tonight, but Don and I have great affection for Frank, and he's appeared here many, many times. He has some health issues, so we hope he's back next year. But we do have one of our foremost poets in Lawrence, Louise Hart, who is beyond the garage in her scope. And she's a great woman of letters, and we're going to have her up here now. Louise Hart. Thank you.
One of the problems of being a professional writer and poet is that when you come to reading, you have too many to choose from. I have, for many years, I've been writing since I was 4 and a half. My first was a limerick, which, pardon me, all the men in this room should appreciate. I have a brother who doesn't like to get up in the morning, for his bed is still longing. But then at night, he hates the sight of the bed he can't leave in the morning. All poetry has a truth to it, and that's what we strive for, is to give others the chance to think and to to some degree, savor their own lives and savor the lives of others. We've gone through tragedy. There was another shooting. But if you read my Rosie's Rule, apart from my literary, it's a novel for students, and it deals with schoolyard violence. Guns did not come into the schools in the 2000s. They've been there.
Could you talk into the microphone?
Okay. Oh, 2 seconds. Half my life, people have wanted me to speak up, and the other half, they tell me to shut up. But we need to consider that in terms of the larger society, violence didn't start recently. It's been there. And in Rosie's Rule, a female student, of course, solves the problem for one school. And I wrote it because I wanted the young people to have a voice. And when it first became publicized, and that's the difference, then it was everybody else wanted to tell them how to solve their problems. And I said they have the power within them to solve them themselves. And since it arises from them, they are the ones to solve it. And possibly to remind us of some, I've drawn some poems from one of my many. I have 11 poetry books out. And one of them was written for 2001. And ironically, it becomes very much appropriate even now. We have mass violence throughout this society, and we need to take control of it. And there are other problems as well. Okay. Patching the quilt in U.S. The universe, astrophysics say, is connected by invisible strings, strings that, like many tiny threads, weave all worlds, suns, stars, asteroids, comets, and even dust together. If so, then too are we, connected in this land where many people come to be joined into a quilt of many colors, a quilt larger than any flag left behind or flown before. Its colors, red, white, black, yellow, brown, and all shades in between are blended, mixed, intertwined in cathedral pattern, sewn with threads swirled together, intermingled, one strengthening another, woven into one stronger than each individual foreign strand, imported, emigrating, coming together in hope, part of a wondrous comforter, warmer than, more glorious than the world has ever seen. Ripped, torn, violated, cut, split with knives, attacked, stabbed, until red strands, shreds, hang like sinews, stripped of the skin by fire, flying broken concrete, and twisted metal shrapnel from the terrorist hijacked planes in the aftermath of irrational, unprovoked act of war. Professionals and volunteers unite, move with one will, one faith, bewildered yet resolute. They sift through rubble remnants, seeking, assessing what they can save, hopefully rescuing, preparing for removal, leveling before memorial rebuilding. Quilters, with vision as clear and as unfailed as those who first, with careful stitches assembled, made this tapestry of wonder and paralleled. Now against smoke and dust, don masks and lift the tattered comforter into their laps to gently touch, remember, reverently bury what cannot be recovered, what was wrongfully taken from them, as with needles in steady hands, stitch by stitch, square by square, they seek to patch, reestablish, recover the work of art forever altered by the fanatical acts of criminals. That was about September 11th. It is also about a certain comment that was made about Lawrence recently. Lawrence is that patchwork. It's an immigrant city, and we are all one. Leaves in a storm. Like the leaves in a storm, they were torn from us in a torrent that swirls, mixes, breaks, reshapes and changes individuals and the landscape simultaneously. Without transition or continuity, they cease to be, not of their own free choice. Lives interrupted remain unfinished, haunt observers, left to remember disembodied dreams. For like trees deleafed before autumn or winter's touch, the lives lost can never realize or be again as they were when the leaf buds first opened. And since I've been told to keep it very quick. We have, since this is, by the way, and it's not finished by any means, but I know there's been much to remember. Mark, and as a fellow poet, I very much appreciated his works. Oops, I didn't bring it up. It'll be in the book if you want to. This one, To the Tree, I finished with this, although I wanted to read another one. That was to Auto Care. You'll have to read the book that Auto Care is coming out with to read it. To the tree whose dying was not heard. I was not here to witness the dying, to hear the wrenching sound of death separating your life force from your body. As with my cousin, I came only to see the still body, a shell bereft of the energy that defined and distinguished you and her from all others, a shell that is but fodder for decay, insects, and worms, scavengers that cannot know your unique individuality. They do not see you as I did. They cannot know the pain, the sense of loss experienced anew each time I visit, encounter, pause, remember your special beauty by the sepulchral hole that now it makes your grave. Thank you. You're welcome.
Quite a literary bunch of people over there at Dawn's Auto Care. Everyone gets a pencil, a pen, and a calendar tonight, thanks to Dawn. One more round of applause for Dawn. Before I turn over the mic to the Robert Frost Foundation, I just want to see if any student has one more poem. Anybody here? Charlotte or Abigail or Gio, and one more poem? Just one more. Come on, one more poem. Let's hear it. Come on. One more poem.
I'll find something.
Okay, come on up here. Come on. Thank you, Charlotte.
Of course, now we'll just wait for my Google Drive to load, and I'll keep you updated as we go.
The only thing to fear is loading.
It's very true. All right. Do, do, do.
George has it with her, it just takes a minute.
All right. So this is one called The Purpose of a Flag, and it might need some editing. I wrote it relatively recently, so it's not totally there yet, but this is what I got. The purpose of a flag: to hide the dead, to welcome the living, to signal the aliens, to conquer the worlds, to capture, to claim a ship, to claim a people, to start the race, to halt the train, to land the flight, to pass through security, to signal distress, to dress a wound, to call a foul, to contest a ruling, to overthrow a king, to pray for guidance, to admit defeat, to wave, to see, to pledge, hands empty, to sing.
I just want to thank everybody from Andover High, the teachers and students. One more round of applause. And for also the poets from Dawn's Auto Care, we'll hear it for them too. That's Mark's legacy, that he just brought literary excellence everywhere he went. And it's an example tonight of his work, and also an example of how he influenced everybody. I want to turn everything over now to the Robert Frost Foundation. We had a wonderful evening here, and I hope we could go on for days. And I certainly can, so I'm not going to. I want to turn it over to Jessica and open mic night, and thank everybody for coming tonight. One more round of applause for all the people. Look for it on cable in Lawrence, Methuen, and Andover. Joe Spanos Productions will put it out, and it's going to also be on YouTube, so everybody here tonight's going to be famous. Okay, thank you. Okay, come on, Jess. All right, I'm bigger than you, okay. Thank you.
So yes, that's our segment for the students of Andover High. And my message to you guys is, I know that you're here in high school now, but what we'd like to see happen is that you keep poetry in your heart, and even after you finish high school, you keep expressing yourself in that way. And Eric, you too, because you have to teach generations of children after children after children. You inspire them, and that gets to go with them for the rest of their life. So, you know, let Cafe Azteca be a stepping stone for your future. Thank you, guys. Okay, I'm gonna give the microphone back over to Jim so that we can get our open mic started. And you guys, if you want to do part of the open mic, you know, come back up again.
Thank you, Jess.
There. So I thought I'd mention that one of the things about the Alliteration Nation of the 6 groups around here is that if you can't make it one particular night, you can actually go to the other groups too. In Lawrence now, there's Fuerza tomorrow night. There's, we're the second Tuesdays. The Great Courts in Methuen are the first Mondays. There's all kinds of. Oh, is there anybody left who wants to sign up for open mic? I'm looking at someone. No? Okay. Everything's cool. All right, so first we have, now, this is the way it usually works on these lists. Number 1 is nobody. Number 2 is nobody. Number 3, finally we have a somebody. It's Helena Minton. Will be featured next month.
Good evening, everybody. I hope you can hear me, and just want to thank everyone, the students and the teachers, for reading their poems, and very moving, and I want to be here to support the students. As we haven't been mentioned what happened yesterday, the person who came to New Hampshire for a few minutes and spoke his mind. I want to read a poem that often it appears right at the beginning of this book of poems by Robert Frost. It's a kind of collected of Frost. I don't know if it's the definitive. It's called The Pasture, and it's an invitation. So this is an invitation for this person to join us here in Lawrence and enjoy all the wonderful things the city has to offer and the people. It's called The Pasture, and you'll probably recognize it. I'm going out to clean the pasture spring. I'll only stop to rake the leaves away and wait to watch the water clear, I may. I shan't be gone long. You come too. I'm going out to fetch the little calf that's standing by the mother. It's so young. It totters when she licks it with her tongue. I shan't be gone long. You come too. I know that was a favorite poem of Mark's, and he often would read that. I think, I was thinking he might have a variation, like, I'm going out to hear poetry in Lawrence, Massachusetts. I shan't be gone long. You come too. That would be a Mark poem.
All right.
And I'd just like to read one of mine, a short one, which is actually set in the summer. The setting is in Maine, Friendship, Maine. It's called Arriving at Bradford Point. Walking among scattered apples, I had to watch my feet. easy to trip and twist an ankle, distracted by the scent of ripening. Tall grass wound up the rungs of a ladder, leaning in a crooked tree. The cottage sat akimbo on the lawn, old hen house with a room to sleep in. Not logically situated, at an angle to what? Which yard did it belong in? I couldn't tell. I sat down on the couch, my eyes at sea level, followed the line to the water, the perfect range. Everything around me loose and knocking, aching but tethered, anchored or knotted, at some point assured, nothing would float away, not even me, my body trying to carve out its perch. Thank you. I will just mention, as Jim said, I am reading in April with, and so is Tim Kremen. We publish books with the Finishing Line Press, and maybe we'll see some of you here next week. Thank you, Jim.
All right. That was Helena. And now I have the one known as Mara.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank my cousin for inspiring me, Mark Shore, who he's no longer with us right now. I want to know that he is with me, inspiring me. I wish he was here so he could see me up here, because I'm a new poet, along with other persons who are not here today who are inspiring me to keep writing and to keep going. So here's my poem. It's not named, but I call it Angry. I'm angry, angry at myself, allowing myself to feel this feeling, knowing where it will end up. But still, I fell for the words, fell for the hope of one day that turned into many. I'm angry at myself, knowing I'd be the statistic, your statistic, of the many before, in between, and after, waiting in purgatory for that hope of one day, hope for someday, hope it will be me, hope. And I have one more. I'm mourning the old me, the cold me, the wise me, the leading with my head me. This new me, wearing my heart on my sleeve me, is unrecognizable. Who is she? Why is she here? Go away, disappear. There's too much feelings to have to bear. I thought I had escaped, but didn't get far. Now my heart is ajar. I tried not to feel. Now there's a scar. Thank you.
Oh, I just figured out there is some on the list, a Mark B, but there's a Mark before the Mark B, so I'll have to introduce them later as the Mark who is not B and the Mark who is B. So thank you for the B. Anyway, that was just editorial. So now, from an occupied mind past the ebbing tide and towering pine of Ipswich, we have Blaine H.
Thanks, Jim. Great job, guys, and just keep it up. It was wonderful. I'm glad I'm here to hear you. And it always seems like the voice of reason and the voice of change always comes from youth, and it always comes from poets. So keep trying to change things. This first poem I'm going to read is for you guys. It's called Modern Tasks. It's from my occupied poems chapbook. I spent a bunch of time at Occupy Boston, and still protesting against the same stuff. But never give up hope, and this is a modern task. I apologize all the time to my kids for the world we've left for them. The world itself isn't the problem. It's an exhilarating planet, even as we destroy it. And now we've also littered the moon and Mars. It's truly only what we've built on this planet that's the problem. So how are we going to fix it now? It survived all this time like some mutant cockroach licking its lips, and it's the same old stories. Bankers of today walk blind to the facts that they could still be obscenely rich, but everyone else wouldn't have to be suffering. What's so difficult about that? So I have to hope that Occupy is the voice for the 99%, because it has to come to direct action to make the masses realize they're getting screwed in their asses. Oh, beautiful, for spacious skies. Make it work. Stop selling bombs and fix our scenery. Fierce punk rhythms crack my brain. I could pogo all night. But that's only putting right actions into murky suspension behind some curtain of inertia. Push the rock, push the rock, push the rock up the hill. Rock slipping's my crack up. Looking over edge of abyss at void of thoughts expanding like ripples on a lake. I can't take it anymore. It's freedom to do anything. Thanks.
Great job.
Thank you. I'm just going to turn to the page just in case I can't remember. But this is Further Thoughts on Occupy. And this is actually published in a Canadian journal called Poesis. It's Further Thoughts on Occupy. So I bought a pair of used Brooks Brothers khakis for $6.99 at Savers. They looked never worn and miraculously hemmed at just the right inseam. And I thought that was the poem. But then the real poem is why I have to shop there, although I like the idea of using used stuff, sparing Earth's fragile resources. But really, how can the pants cost the $69.95 they're listed at when they're just cloth? We can't work within this system because that's what's broken. A new polemic needed, and I'm not afraid of saying, tear it all down. And I'll take these ancient thoughts, a pendulum swing of huge proportion, a spring of rage, if that's what it comes to. Bloody eyes and hands, do not let this election stand. Visionary thought needs a place to land. A new Joan of Arc to set the world on fire, and yes, it is that religious quest. Change the parameters to based on need, because maybe we could get it done. Occupy just to start, a kernel nurtured through winter's dark musing, ready to marshal a 99% to savage attack. It requires that intensity to change the world. Prepare now for starting over. Build a tribe of people you love. Exist, remove from the system as much as you can, but work together to change it all you can. Call attention to and fight every injustice. Occupy everything. Thank you. Oh, Jim, can I just say one more thing?
Yeah.
And this is, it's John, right? Right here? John? I went to the Chieftain Sunday, and Katie Coleman, who's an astronaut, was at the space station, and this was actually on March 17th, 2011. But she played on Sunday, but she played the tin whistle and the flute up at the space station on St. Patrick's Day 2011.
All right.
Good work, Marshall.
Yeah.
You got us up there.
Yeah. I'm still amazed at the way the rocket lands from SpaceX. It's like a 1950s fiction or a ballerina. It's like, how'd they do that? Anyway, maybe we'll get out of here someday. So next we have the from the country club on the Methuen water shoreline, where we have our palatial meetings sometimes. We have a Ray L. Or as I call him in the hood, Ray L.
Thank you. Hello. Two short ones tonight, okay? The first one is entitled The Impulse. This is a welcome spring poem, more or less. The impulse. Spring happens no matter how it touches us. However we feel it, however we image it, whatever way our insides move, whatever our thoughts, whatever our moods, we cannot get away from the life source. It grabs us. Head, heart, and gut intertwine and blend into the oneness of the experience. Comparisons, judgments, and opinions vanish. Distinctions no longer matter. We sigh, throb, breathe, groan in one universal impulse. Spring provides no shield from depression, misfortune, destruction, even death. Injustice and violence do not take spring breaks. Yet, grass grows and blossoms sprout. Spring happens, and we are touched. Thank you. I can't figure this year out. Okay, I did try to teach for 42 years. Can you imagine that? How the years go by, and almost every winter I would read Frost's Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, and then get accused of bringing snow down. I assure you, I have not read that poem anywhere. But anyway, here we are. Okay, and by the way, this comes from my 20th century book, Growing into Immaturity, Vignettes of Useless Wisdom. As I said last month, if anybody can find useful wisdom in this book, you will be sent for further psychological testing. Okay, yeah, I mean, really. Okay, this next one is entitled March 20th. This is really hard to believe. But from 1964 to 1969, I tried to teach in Japan. 2 years international school, 3 years, Japanese university. And I remember my third year there, my first year in Tokyo. I didn't even see it the first 2 years at the international school because I didn't know what was going to happen. And we were on this American, British kind of schedule. Okay? But then the third year, the trains used to be really, really crowded. And when I would go to the university, my God, it was really something. You've probably seen some of the pictures in downtown Tokyo of people being pushed into the train, okay? Really, I call these people pushers, ho, 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 ho. They wore white gloves and made sure that the doors could close. And then all of a sudden, I go out there and the trains are almost empty. And I'm saying, wow, this is great. And I go flying through and so forth. And I get to the university like an idiot. I didn't check the calendar and there's no class that day. Well, what happens is that the solstices and the equinoxes are national holidays in Japan. There's really an awareness of the earth, and it's a wonderful planet. It really, really is. It really is. There's a natural kind of awareness. I think we have it too. We just don't celebrate it with holidays. So anyway, this is and it's today, the spring equinox. 12:15 today it started. Isn't that amazing? The exact same amount of time to the second of light and darkness today and tonight. Wow. And it's going to happen next year, I predict. Okay, now, I've been predicting a Red Sox World Series since I saw my first game on Labor Day of 1945. So that's how good I am at predicting. But I think this one is going to come through. Okay, but anyway, here we go. March 20th. Equinox, absolute balance of light and darkness, brightness and shadow perfectly synchronized. Our beings blend with, consist in all shades, include all of life. No images of domination or superiority. Yet the balance does not reflect human history. Cruelty, hunger, wars, suffering, overwhelming gloom engulfs the earth. Still, silence lives in divinity, the source, soft, silent nearness, breathing through, from, around, and in, timeless, formless, unlimited being, its healing energy penetrating, permeating all. Okay. Thank you. You people are too kind, really. Thank you.
So we have the first Mark, the one who is just Mark.
Hey, good evening. Normally I don't come up here and just start talking, but I'm reminded that the fundamental duty of a poet is to tell the truth. And as we're all aware, yesterday Tangerine Mussolini came up to this area and started talking trash about our community. And obviously he knows nothing about Lawrence because we don't take that stuff lying down. If we want to get to the root of the opioid crisis, we have to realize and start talking the truth about it. That it started in 2001 when we were coerced out of our fear to invade Afghanistan. And that's where we started replanting the poppy fields, which are being protected by our troops today to bring the heroin into this country and to create this crisis that has killed friends of mine and friends of people across this country for lies. And if this guy wants to put the drug dealers to death, then he needs to remember that the biggest drug dealers are the ones in suits and ties, hiding in the shadows, making millions of dollars. And their names are Bush, Clinton, Obama, and Trump, and their cronies on Wall Street who are making money hand over fist, selling drugs to our kids. So let's just keep it real. A rumbling can be heard on the horizon, a great stirring underfoot, as dry, dying leaves crack and crumble from the weight bearing down on them. The march into battle echoes in far-off villages and mighty metropolis, as clear as a fallen pin. A wisp of wind in the Sahara is all that is needed to create a sandstorm in the dust bowl of the Midwest. Unrest in the streets and town squares, amassed in the voices at the checkout counter, and a fist can be seen in the air, multiplied by the millions of disheveled and downtrodden. No, we are not to blame for the bankers' plunder. We are merely the results of deregulation, of capitalization, of corruption in high places, and our voices will be heard, vibrating in your meeting halls, crumbling your capitals to dust and ash from whence they came. Greedy children and their teachers are not the guilty parties. The excess spoils will not be found in the pockets of the toiling masses. Grandma's social security check did not crash the economy any more than did immigrants send your jobs to China. We are not the problem, but like a thunderbolt from Zeus's fingertips, slicing through the darkness of their expedient lies, we will be the solution. I'd like to share one last one with you. This kind of summarizes all that's going on. It's called imposing democracy. When you have to terrify your own people into giving their freedoms away, we say it's guaranteeing security. When you invade another country to steal their wealth and establish your own regime, we call it setting people free. When you bomb a tiny village while all its people are fast asleep, that is known as collateral damage. And when you rob from the poor to subsidize your rich friends' wallets, well, I'd say that's graft, but maybe you'd call it paying homage. When there are police at every corner, no, that's not repression, it's maintaining order. And when all the news tells you to follow the government line, they say that freedom of the press is doing just fine. When you're not capable of an independent thought, then you've received a good education. And when your health care runs out, that's just the benefits of privatization. When we hide our sweatshops in China, we say that slavery is abolished. And when your vote isn't even being counted, there are people who would call that universal suffrage. When a baby is shot by a stray bullet, maybe it's officially an accident, but just try telling that to the mother. And when the ice caps are melted and the air is polluted, no, that has not a thing to do with your profits. When you say we're at war, I ask you, when haven't we been? That's just their version of peace without end. Why is it that the rules suddenly change when you're on the wrong side of a color? And while you're at it, can you explain to me how life in prison without a trial could ever be for their own protection? When you get to choose who has the right to live, is that what's meant by having God on your side? When the judges are allowed to hand out the jobs, is that thanks to having free and open elections? I don't know what you think about all this that's going on, but if that's democracy, then something's very, very wrong. Thank you.
And now we have Mark B.
Thank you. I have two poems, one that I wrote and one from someone else. And the first one, which is the one that I wrote, this is another poem about poetry. I've been on that theme lately. And I wrote this one because I read a book about poetry and I disagreed about what the book said, so I wrote a poem about it. Poetry is reality distilled. It's not the transcendent try, capture, and fail, or all wonder, well imitated but pale. No. Poetry is reality distilled. It starts with the corn or the rye, the simple things at hand, already born, ready for the fire. Yes, poetry is reality distilled. It's the bottle with the rag in your hand thrown, light it. It's the alcohol ignited. And this next one is by John Hodgin. He's a professor who teaches at Assumption College in Worcester, lives in Shrewsbury. And this was in the book Best American Poetry of 2017. I may not have the title right, but it's a really nice collection. And with the help of the Poet Laureate Committee in North Andover and the Poets Laureate, we've started a Facebook page to share poetry. It's called North Andover Poets Corner. So if you want to look for that on Facebook, you can find that. And I shared this one this week. I'm going to read it, but one of the funny things about this poem, the title of it is Hamlet Texts Guildenstern About Playing Upon the Pipe. And so it's written in textish. And so reading it, of course you can't see that, but if you go find this poem, it's really neat what he does with the language, like he's texting. But here we go. Hamlet texts Guildenstern about playing upon the pipe. True that, rue that which would cause us to misconstrue that which we always have known to be true, that which we are a part of an unholy crew that dreams we can do whatever we do, to be honest, eschew that, chew that for a while, masticate, expectorate, engender only that which will elevate, do that. Eliminate that which invites you to speculate, pooh-pooh that, untrue that, undo that. At least try. Set your azimuth to aim at whatever sky will allow you to pursue that. And avoid at all costs the truths you are uncouth at, squandering your youth at, growing long in the tooth at, 7 a.m. drinking vermouth at, 9 a.m. flying to Duluth at. Find that hue in the sky, then cry. Boo-hoo that. Hue to that. True blue, that sky course, that heart setting, few do that. Sail to that. And to anything that would skew that, you know what to say. Screw that.
There's some things that really need some music to go along with them, you know? There'll be like a nice rap. I get out of the microphone so I can do some beatboxing for that. So Mark was mentioning, about writing about poetry about poetry. That's Ars Poesis. That's a whole area, or actually making art. And also when you read something and you disagree with it and you go at it, that's one of my favorites. That's Kay Ryan, who was the Poet Laureate of the United States. They asked her at the Dodge Festival I was at, what poetry do you read? She said, I don't read any poetry. She reads essays, those long, windy, complicated essays, and she bitterly disagrees with them and generates all kinds of poems that way. So it's a good vehicle. So next we have Jessica.
Okay, so I'm gonna do one of my own poems, and then I will. Is there anybody after me?
No, everybody's.
Okay, so then I'll end the night with a poem from Mark. But first mine, this one I wrote in 2000. It's called Inner Silence. As I sit here, I try to think silently to myself, but my thoughts seem to come out loud like an echo in an empty building, each time getting a little louder. As I try to be silent, my thoughts come on stronger, like a vine intertwining, growing this way and that way, flourishing like weeds in an empty field. And I think to myself, could this be real? If only this pain would disappear. So I smile, because I know how I feel is so hard to hide. But the visions I have seem to come from every angle, like a sunbeam I just can't escape. So I pray for it to get dark, because when it's dark, people can't see the look of sadness in my eyes. But I tell myself it'll be okay. I know deep inside it'll be okay. And I know that one day, just one day, I'm going to walk into that warm sunbeam shining on my face with a look of happiness that nobody's going to be able to erase. And then I'll know that even when my thoughts come out loud, it's going to be in my own inner silence that I'll no longer drown. Okay. And then I have my favorite poem from Mark, which all of his poems are good, but this is a poem that he wrote to his wife. Her name is Natalie. Natalie, this morning I put my unfeeling hand along your back, tracing the way between your opera and your bourse. I found your arcades in their source. Then, afternoon, following their art, I took a very different way into the galleries of your heart, and finding them I stayed all day. From there, I became Orpheus and forgot to trace the way I came, finding only your gardens of jazz, which never sound the same. Natalie, I called Paris by your name. So let's just give a last final round of applause to the teachers and students from Andover High and to ourselves for taking the courage to stand up and speak what we feel. Thank you.